Hey, do you know how to move an object and Hi. Hey. Hey, do you know how to move and scale an object in Blender? Then congratulations, you're just one step away from learning how to make really good looking clouds in Blender. My name's Sagar and I run and own a website called 3dQuickBooks.com. I firmly believe that learning 3D doesn't have to take a lot of hours, and it definitely doesn't have to take a lot of memorization either. And I'll talk about the memorization in just a bit. But what I do believe is in learning concepts. See, concepts can go beyond the software itself. So it's a very liberating thing as an artist to look beyond the software and to use the software for its intended purposes only. And that's why I believe that releasing how to make clouds in Blender is probably the perfect QuickBook that can go as the first launch. Because in order for you to know how to make really good clouds, you just need to know two concepts. The first concept is that all 3D objects can be moved and scaled in Blender. The second concept is that Blender is capable of making clouds. And that's it. Now, that may not be the smartest thing to say, but just give me a second. There are two reasons for the first concept. So the first reason for the first concept is that when you are in the process of making clouds, the best skill that you can have is of moving and scaling things so that you can give the shape of the cloud through these actions. And that's kind of it. And second reason for the first concept is that once you're done making the clouds, once you're done shaping them, the way that you place them in the scene is through moving them around and scaling them so that they look bigger or smaller. And whether you like to believe it or not, 90% of the work of giving cloud shape and making them look good is right there in the first concept. If you have the ability to move and scale objects, you can make really good looking clouds. As for the second concept, remember what I was talking about memorization? This is exactly it. So it takes a certain amount of technical steps to go from a blank scene to a finished product that looks like the cloud. Now you can memorize these steps and keep on forgetting them if you were to hypothetically come back to it 5 months later. But one of the main reasons that I made QuickBooks is because so that it would contain the technical steps that I need to take to go from a blank scene to the finished state. So what I can really focus on instead of the technical jargon is to do the first concept, like just moving things around and making the clouds look the best they possibly can. And speaking of steps, there are exactly 13 steps that you need to take to go from a blank scene to a finished version of the cloud. Now you could memorize it, but the chances are if you do it a couple of times, it's not going to cut it, because when you come back to making clouds 5 months later, you're probably going to forget it. So that's one of the reasons I use QuickBooks all the time as well, because I don't need to remember those 13 steps. But the QuickBook doesn't end there. After you've taken those 13 steps, it moves on to a section called lighting setup, in which I teach you how to create a simple yet effective lighting rig so that you can render the clouds that you've just made or you will make. Then I move on to a small word about rendering clouds. If you're a veteran in 3D, you really won't be benefiting much from this. But if you're a beginner, I think it's just nice to let them know what we're dealing with. Then there is experimentation. In this section, I talk about the parameters that you need to play with and how tweaking these parameters changes how your clouds look, which is probably the most important part after you've learned those initial 13 steps. I believe this section is very important because as the need of your scene changes, so will these parameters of your clouds. Then there is a section called working with the scene, in which I have made a very simple scene in Blender along with mountains and a few clouds, so I can show beginners and people who are trying to learn how to make clouds in Blender to see how I have incorporated clouds in the scene, so that you will be able to either replicate it or get some experience from me so that you can do it for yourself. And along with experimentation, you'll be able to alter whatever you need to do for your own clouds. And then I finally end the QuickBook on a word on creativity, which I believe is not talked about as much as it should be, because we are at the end of the day artists. There is a link in the description that will take you to 3dQuickBooks.com, which will allow you to purchase your very own copy of how to make clouds in Blender. Before you go, I would like to officially announce that 3D QuickBooks will be releasing 2 more QuickBooks, both priced at $3 each, and they will be for different softwares. And the concept for these QuickBooks is going to be the same, that anyone can learn 3D and without putting in lot of hours or lot of memorization. So if you're interested in learning 3D at affordable prices, then please follow 3D QuickBooks on YouTube and Instagram for future releases and updates. Thank you for watching.